From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Could it be the future of the dairy industry?
But the activity that happens right here is going to impact the lives of our farmers in Tennessee, across the region, across the world.
How robots are changing everything in the milking parlor. Why now may be the best time to lock in your prices for propane as concerns grow in the Corn Belt.
So it'd be kind of hard, especially with these 90-degree temps and the wind that it's been there, that we wouldn't be seeing some sort of a yield reduction.
The latest crop progress numbers and a look ahead to see if there are any rain chances in sight to counteract this dryness right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. With almost half of the nation's corn crop now battling drought, crop condition ratings have taken a tumble. USDA updating things on Monday with the latest crop progress report. Right now, 61% of the corn crop is rated good to excellent, but that's down 3% from last week, while 8% is rated poor to very poor, up 2% from a week ago. Soybean planting now at 96% completed, 10% above average, 59% of the crop rated good to excellent. That's also down 3% from last week, 9% rated poor to very poor, which is up from 7% a week ago. Looking ahead, there doesn't seem to be much relief from the drier weather in the forecast. That, coupled with anticipation of lower crop ratings, sent corn up double digits to start the week. AgDay's Michelle Rook is following that. Michelle, analysts are already predicting yields will take a hit.
That's right, Clinton. USDA left yields unchanged in last Friday's WASDE report at a record 181.5 bushels per acre on corn and 52 bushels per acre on soybeans. But with the unfavorable weather we've seen recently, as well as declining crop conditions, there's many private forecasters that have downgraded their yield estimate on corn anywhere from 177 to 181 bushels per acre. The latest drought monitor shows 45% of corn acres are experiencing some level of drought. Rains have been spotty so far in May and June, and while there is a forecasted shift in the pattern due to El Nino, so far rains have been disappointing, including this last weekend's.
There was a part of south central Illinois that got some rain, parts of southern Iowa that got some rain. But all in all, the amounts of rainfall that fell and the coverage levels that we got out of that system just were not as good as what the models had forecast.
Corn is curling in dry areas of the Corn Belt and seeing some early crop stress. Irrigation pivots are already running in many areas, so the top-end yield is being shaved.
I mean, it's kind of hard to think that it wouldn't be when you're going, almost 6 weeks with, hardly any measurable rain in the northern parts of Illinois and in the northern parts of the Corn Belt. Even up here in the northern plains, we're seeing a little bit of weather adversity as well, as we went from being too wet to now being too dry in a lot of areas. So it'd be kind of hard, especially with these 90-degree temps and the wind that it's been there, that we wouldn't be seeing some sort of a yield reduction.
While it's early, if cooler, wetter weather doesn't materialize by June 20th, there could be more significant losses in corn yields, while soybeans are an August crop. The market is adding some weather premium, but if the dry weather persists through July 4th, action could get explosive. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
All right, thanks, Michelle. One crop where condition ratings seem to be improving slightly, winter wheat. Recent rains in some key growing areas are having a positive impact on the crop, and that has USDA raising the forecast for winter wheat production this month to a little higher than last month, increasing it to 1.14 billion bushels, or up just 0.5% from May. And because of more planted acres this year, production could still be 3% higher than last year.
I think the real question will be when we get the acreage report on June 30, does that moisture drag some acres back into being harvested? It may push yields down while pushing production up, or maybe we don't see a change and maybe that wheat is just not salvageable. I think that that'll be a very interesting question, and we'll get a fuller picture on the domestic wheat market at the June 30 acreage report.
Right now, 47% of the winter wheat crop is in an area experiencing droughts. That's shaded here in red on this map. And there is the possibility of more rain to push through the southern plains, while other areas could see triple-digit and potentially record-breaking heat. Meteorologist Matt Engelbrecht has an update.
Yeah, Clint, we'll try to hit on both of those points right now. I always like looking at the flooding potential. It gives us an idea on kind of where the heavier rainfall is going to come. That does not mean you can't get some lighter showers or some activity back up into Missouri and especially into the Midwest coming up Tuesday and into Wednesday. But the focus for the heaviest rain is once again going to be down in Texas, Louisiana, back here into the southeast. Now, that's Tuesday, also into Wednesday. By Thursday, you got some next system starting to come in out of the northwest. The other part of this, the heat that is going to continue to ramp up with the potential for record-setting heat. Looking down where that rain is going to miss, things are going to be up into the triple digits. This isn't the heat index. This is the actual temperature. 112 possibly in San Antonio this afternoon, 113 down deep in southern Texas. Back up to the north, we're going to be working into the Midwest back to average. Otherwise, looking at more of the mid-80s. Go ahead and take a look at this cute photo. Move over. Paul sending this one in. Farmers and farmers in general are getting a little bit worried about that rainfall, which we'll talk about in just a second. And talk about gentle giants. Paul of Oklahoma sharing this terrific picture. He says this cow is so gentle, a 3-year-old can hand feed to it. Love to see those moments shared from the farm. I'll have more on your forecast in just a bit.
Canada is joining the U.S. in taking on Mexico's proposed ban on GMO corn. The country says it will join a trade dispute panel over the issue. The panel was officially requested by the U.S. Trade Representative's office earlier this month. That's after ongoing talks with Mexico failed to yield a solution. Now, Mexico has a plan to ban GMO corn for human consumption in the country and possibly from animal feed as well. But the U.S. and Canada say that would damage trade and violate the USMCA agreement. Now, Canada's Ministry of Ag saying in a statement the country shares the concerns of the U.S. that Mexico's plan is not supported by science. The trade dispute panel could take about half a year to study the complaint before releasing its findings. Some lawmakers are taking on some foreign land ownership here in the U.S. They're proposing a 60% tax on land purchases by U.S. adversaries. The House of Representatives Tax Writing Committee Chairman, Republican Representative Jason Smith of Missouri, is sponsoring the bill. Now, the plan is to try to prevent countries such as China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, Cuba, and Venezuela from acquiring U.S. agricultural land. As we've reported, foreign entities own just over 3% of the U.S. private land, and it adds up to 40.8 million acres of land. Now, China owns less than 1% of that total. Up next, Michelle will return with more on the weather rally happening in corn and wheat. That's next. And later, we celebrate National Dairy Month with a look at the possible dairy of the future, one controlled by the cows and robots in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Farm Shop MFG. Did you know that 20% of stored corn is often overventilated by 3 points of moisture? On 100,000 bushels, that's a whole semi-load. Stop this problem for less with the End Zone for Corn by Farm Shop MFG. Specially priced at $2,100 per unit while supplies last.
Some good news for producers. Right now, propane prices are at their lowest start of summer levels since the COVID-19 lockdown 3 years ago. Market watchers say a mild winter left an excess supply of heating fuel, and record output from natural gas drillers and oil refiners has counterbalanced record exports. As a result, propane prices in commodity markets have dropped over 50% compared to last year. They say this means right now is a good time to buy propane and propane accessories. Weather concerns about corn spilled over in soybeans and wheat on Monday. Michelle Rook takes a deeper dive into the markets with Arlen Suderman of StoneX.
Monday's market closes were mixed in the grains. Arlen Suderman with StoneX Group is joining us. And Arlen, let's talk about the corn market and AgDay, most of that putting in some weather premium, although it feels a little early for that.
Oh, it really does. Anticipating yields in June is a pretty risky proposition, but the market was reacting to the disappointing rain totals over the weekend. We did get a change in the weather pattern right on cue as expected. That didn't mean that everybody was going to get rain all in the first opportunity. There's going to be many more opportunities, several more opportunities for the Midwest over the next week to 10 days. Don't necessarily show up in the models, but those models don't show up convective thunderstorm activity. So I think we're going to get more opportunities, but the market reacting to the weekend rainfall totals.
I think there's also an idea that, the declining crop ratings may also lead to some lower yields. But as we go forward, what do you think there as a former agronomist?
I've walked a lot of cornfields and I've watched USDA track their crop ratings, and I've seen crop ratings fall in June and then come back in July and August and give us above trend yields. I've seen the opposite true as well. It's just too early to say. Overall, my observation and the research that I read shows that the maximum ear size is determined somewhere between the V7 and V14 range. And so for a lot of our corn, we've still got some opportunities yet.
And soybeans tried to follow corn, and we got a little bit higher close on November soybeans. We're above the $12 mark, but is this really related to weather? Because it's way too early for that crop too.
Yeah, I still think it's funds buying. They make macro decisions with a paint with a broad brush.
Yeah. What about the wheat market? What's driving that right now? Because it was kind of a flat day overall.
We're getting some support from last week's Egypt tender, which saw evidence that Russia really is going to enforce the $240 per ton minimum, and they pretty much set the world price. But at the same time, there's nothing to sustain a rally. So pretty much mixed right now, nothing really to trade it one way or the other.
Okay, that's why we see all this choppy action. Thanks so much for joining us, Arlen Suderman with StoneX, and that's Markets Now. More AgDay coming up.
Contact Arlen Suderman by email at arlen.suderman@intlfcstone.com.
Ag Day is brought to you by Lamar's Toy Store, the largest and most diversified farm toy store in the U.S. They have new and old and do restorations and customizations too. You need to see it to believe it. Visit lamarstoystore.com or call us at 712-546-4305.
I wanted to quickly revisit that drought monitor. There will be some changes coming up on Thursday when the new drought monitor is released, but we're not seeing a lot of help where we need it. In fact, remember those scorching temperatures that we were just talking about? That is where we are starting to see that drought form more in the moderate to severe down into San Antonio, a little bit into Austin, and then of course Brownsville. We're not in a drought, but we are going to be very hot coming up this afternoon. Still back up into the Midwest, you got the dry, if not moderate drought starting to take shape in that 7 to 10 day period between June 17th and the 21st. So already through second half of June or into the second half of June. You got the potential for some rain back into the southeast, still looking drier than normal into Illinois, Wisconsin, and back up into the UP. Drier than normal into Texas, including down into Brownsville, San Antonio, Houston, Midland, Odessa, and down here to the south. Wetter than normal into the Four Corners, Utah, Denver, Colorado, and back up into Montana and the Northwest. And that's going to be about June 17th and June 21st. The way we get that pattern going is by looking at what to expect coming up this Thursday with that jet stream. Another low pressure system and then a ridge developing back out here into the Midwest, or I should say the Midwest and into the plains up towards the Canadian-United States border. But look what's over here towards the Northwest. When we're talking about above average rainfall for a large portion of the Northwest, including Utah and Montana, this is a weak low pressure system that is set to move off to the east. Now with that ridge building, what we want to see is this to be able to dive down to the south, pick up that moisture, and create a cyclone, a low pressure system across the United States. With the ridge in place, a lot of that energy is going to stay locked up to the north. It's also going to be disconnected from the Gulf of Mexico, so all that moisture, available moisture, is going to stay down to the south as well. There are some rain chances there, and it's just not looking like it's going to be spread across a good portion of the United States. The next piece of energy that we're watching towards the end of the weekend and next week, that is going to be more favorable for a low pressure system to work across the United States rather than just up towards the top part of your screen or towards the north. Let's talk a little bit about Kansas. Scattered thunderstorms, high around 73 degrees at Wood, and also we got North Dakota, higher 85, low of 57. Caldwell, Texas, expecting it to be hot, 96 with partly cloudy skies.
One country is considering culling thousands of cows. We have more on the reason why coming up next. And later we head to a new dairy farm where cows decide when they need to be milked and robots make it happen.
Your next piece of equipment is on MachineRepeat.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on MachineRepeat.com.
The push is on in Congress to allow low-fat flavored along with whole milk to continue to be served in schools. 37 processors of school milk have signed on to the Healthy School Milk Commitment. The processors are responsible for 90% of the milk served in schools. They're pledging to reduce sugar in flavored milks to no more than 10 grams per 8-ounce serving. A Milk PEP-funded study shows when only white milk was offered to students, milk consumption decreased an average of 35% and milk waste increased. The flavored milk plan is now part of legislation moving its way through Congress called the Whole Milk for Healthy Kids Act. Now, legislation was approved by a House committee earlier this month. It still has to pass the full House. An equivalent bill in the Senate right now is under review. Ireland is looking at ways to curb methane emissions under the European Green Deal, and one idea seems rather drastic. A report that the country is considering culling 200,000 cows over the next 3 years. The Irish government estimating the plan would cost the nation $640 million in an effort to assist the ag industry in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Now, the goal is to cut them by 25% over the next 7 years. A national British newspaper reports the Irish Department of Agriculture would initiate a cull of 65,000 cows a year for 3 years. That would effectively reduce the national dairy herd by 10%. Now, the proposal would reportedly be offered as a voluntary option to aging farmers. As you can imagine, the plan is not sitting well with many farmers, with the president of the Irish Farmers Association saying the reports only serve to further fuel the view that the government is working behind the scenes to undermine the dairy and livestock sectors. Now, the Irish Department of Agriculture says no final plans have been agreed upon. Coming up, our focus on dairy continues with a look at a new kind of milking parlor.
I'm Charles Denny. Dairy farming gets even more high-tech with a robotic milking system. We'll show you a demonstration here at the University of Tennessee Ag Research Center in Blount County, Tennessee. That story coming up on AgDay.
In the Country on AgDay is brought to you by Pivot Bio. What if you had the nitrogen you need already on seed? Pivot Bio is the first company to apply nitrogen on seed. The nitrogen you need, now on seed, from Pivot Bio. Learn more at pivotbio.com.
New technology could mean greater productivity and increased animal welfare for the dairy industry. The University of Tennessee Ag Research has installed robotic milking machines at one of its facilities. Charles Denny shows us this new method of milking.
Not your typical ribbon cutting. Here, one of the barn residents does the honor, a Holstein at the UT Ag Research's Little River Dairy Unit. She's one of the hardworking cows milked multiple times a day by 2 new robotic systems. Cattle are trained to walk up to the machines where each animal is recognized by a sensor. The system knows how much feed to give based on historical data, and the cow is free to eat, drink, and rest while being milked. On average, each cow spends about 7.5 minutes here giving milk.
Used to, you milk twice a day. With robots, you can milk up to 3 or 4 or 5 times a day if a cow wants to come in. That improves the health of the cow.
Representatives of the Tennessee Dairy Producers Association and other state ag and UT leaders were here for the opening of the robotic milking parlor.
But the activity that happens right here is going to impact the lives of our farmers in Tennessee, across the region, across the world.
One of the beauties of the robotic system is it allows cows to sort of milk in a natural environment. Baby calves, they feed when they're hungry, right? And so now the cows, they're not forced into a certain milking cycle. They can come milk when they're ready, and they can leave when they're ready.
The intent with the robots is not to replace humans. You still need people to help the cows and tabulate the numbers. And with this new system, you can milk as many as 120 cows in a short amount of time. The Lely Corporation in the Netherlands developed the system. Here the company has computer-generated graphics to demonstrate how it works. These cows already seem to have adapted to the system, milked on their own time in a stress-free environment. Better for the animals and easier on the human handlers, robotics are not just a future wish, but now a present-day reality and new era in dairy production. This is Charles Denny reporting.
All right, thanks, Charles. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clint Griffiths. Have a great day.